Amit,
Okay.
I think someone asked a question in between. What works better for India, where B2B customers want high touch and are not as remunerative as global counterparts? I was asking related to ABM. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sid already answered that. See, you need to understand what are the returns. Like there's a particular scale at which ABM, when it converts, it makes sense, right? I would not say the hypothesis that it works better in Western regions is actually true, because the revenue per dollar is more. But however, in India, I have personally run highly successful ABM programs. High touch, there's a difference between velvet rope and high touch, right? You decide how a high touch could be. You could run your ABM program by not conducting events, but just sending them a direct mailer, and running ads very effectively for just those 150 odd customers. It depends on your ABM list size. It depends on the kind of team you have. It depends on your preparedness and how much you know about the accounts. So just to answer your question, in India, the degree of touches should be low. In West, I've seen them perform much better. I hope I answered your question.
And Amit, before you continue, do you want to also talk about physical advertising? Have you done that in India? I haven't.
I have done it for Make My Trip.
But you want to, there's a question: how does physical advertising work, region specific or localized, newspaper, magazine, events, expo, in comparison to digital?
Okay, so local advertising works when you're again, the most important part is how well do you know your audience. So if you know that a CHRO in Dubai reads Khalij, one particular section of Khalij every week, then you better advertise there versus spending a lot on blogs or other means of advertising. Be where your customers are. If you're sure about physical advertising in newspaper ad, go ahead, do that. I just to give you an example, there's an event that PeopleStrong does every year, which is called New Code of Work. We used to give a one-pager ad till 2019 in that in Times of India. Last year we stopped that, and instead we did a TV at the same cost. We did a TV episode, same cost. We reached about 10 to 12 lakh people with that. Whereas in a newspaper, not knowing how many people would actually turn that page and read that page. In terms of direct mailers, that's one of the avenues where you should do, which you could do effectively. COVID has made it very difficult, and I pray the world goes back into its normal sense. But one tactic which we used very effectively initially in the initial few days of my OneSource days, and then later on at HCL, was physical gifting. And when I say gifts, I don't mean sending them a bottle of wine. I've done that in New York for inviting a very select 14-15 people to a wine tasting tour, where we used to take them to a tour, interact with our senior management. But these people were already my internal accounts. My goal out there was to make sure that I have a very solid understanding of their business. My senior management is very effectively able to show them that we care, and then get them to like us, so that the price doesn't become an issue, because we were overpriced. So we gave them a good experience, showed them that we're not giving them an experience for bribing, but rather having a good time because we care. Depends how you do it. Another way could be sending them a very thoughtful gift. And remember, direct mailers are not a sales marketing exercise. They are a sales exercise. They should be driven by sales with a marketing message built in. We are doing something, I can't disclose what we are doing, but we are doing something for the top 1,000 influential people in India. And the reason we are going to do something like that is to make them realize what value PeopleStrong brings and what is PeopleStrong. Depends totally on your objective and the budgets available. I would vote digital more than physical advertising, specifically given the current scenario. Did I answer the question, by the way? I talked a lot, but did I answer?
I think, yeah,
I hope I did.
Yeah.
I hope I did. But there's a lot. I mean, I do realize that this session has tremendous potential, and I would request Rishabh to actually do a feedback for us, and also do a session where take feedback on what should the next session be. We could probably rope in more people, or do these those pointed topical discussions later on. But would be happy to actually do more of these. Okay, the answer is yes. So great. I did answer that question. Moving on. I will take all of these questions later. I'm sharing my screen, so I can't put in chat again and again. So I will take these questions once more, even though Sid has answered some of them. Okay, email is not dead. It cannot be dead. It's like an undertaker, which at the end of every match with Brock Lesnar or um, John Cena, he comes up and shows up again. People would like to say that there's been a tremendous amount of noise about emails don't work, and emails are this and emails are that. But let me show you the stats first. 21% of sent emails are open within the first hour of delivery, so it matters when are you sending it. The ROI for email, believe it or not, is 4,200%. So you get a return of $42 for every $1 spent on email. 59% of B2B marketers prefer email for lead generation than any other channel. Still, 2021 going into 2022, email is still the top of the pack. You get 40% more conversions as compared to Facebook and Twitter, despite Facebook and Twitter giving you access to some really corny ads that you can run with videos. You can use videos in your emails as well. There's so many platforms, and all it needs is innovative thinking, and some creativity. Now coming back to the previous slide, people do and will always read emails. It just depends. The reasons have changed. Earlier, they used to read emails just to communicate better, but today with the cacophony of brand messaging, they get thousands of emails every day. Most gets trapped in spam and firewalls. The reasons have changed. I would read an email from someone who has actually introduced as somebody of value to me. People have actually, every time I get a LinkedIn invite, people will immediately, the next message I get from them would be, so their first message would be, you're somebody I've heard a lot about, that you talk about revenue engines and how you're able to do that. I would like you to share your experience. I would accept their invite. The next thing is they start pitching. The next message is a pitch, and which is not wrong. I've done that. My team does that. But on an email, it depends who is sending it. Have you created value before you're asking me for an appointment? At what stage are you asking me for an appointment? At what stage are you selling? First, you need to establish who are you. Second is, why are they reading that email? Like, they need to know, okay, I've got this email. Now, what do I do with it? If it is just about your introduction and everything, trust me, no matter how big a company you are, people just don't want to read, don't want to talk to you. So the reason why why they should be reading your emails is something which you really should think about. You've sent somebody a white paper as a lead generation mechanism. How many hoops do you want them to jump? If you use marketing automation well, I don't want you to register. So you click on a link, get your white paper, just give it to them. Open the gates. Marketing automation exists to make this job easier, not get them to fill another form just to get a white paper. Decide whether you're a content seller or you sell value conversationally. At the initial few days of my career, I used to start a series of emails that go directly from my founder, and I still continue doing that. The reason is because I want my founders to create value, and if they've done their job, my job is easy. And it's the founder's job to create that value. It's the founder's job to be seen as a rock star. It's the founder's job to actually give the marketing team a meet to talk about. In most companies, what you lack is, I'll tell you, I mean, Sid would agree with me. In every company you go, you want to produce content, you ask for insights, you will get none. Your product manager does not even know the use cases of the product. Unfortunately, I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but that's the truth. I've been a product manager myself. So where does your marketing team gets value? It's the founder's job to ensure that there are enough insights flowing from a product or a customer success team or an operations and implementations team into the marketing. And that's where your marketing becomes more effective. Don't say email is dead. Yes, boring email is dead, right? Dodging spam filters and firewalls is easy. Most platforms actually tell you what you're doing wrong. There are certain words that you don't have to um, use, blah blah blah. There's enough knowledge out there to actually give you a direction there. Emails in isolation are a rubber bullet, but they become bomb when you incorporate them into your IMC, integrated marketing campaigns. So if I'm doing a campaign for my customers to realize that just buying HR tech from any supposedly SaaS, fast-growing SaaS platform isn't enough, right? When I show them that value, that you're doing a mistake, you are spending less on them. I'm not asking you to spend more, but do you know that these use cases exist on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on email, and in my events? Is when I know eventually, no matter how much noise my competitor makes, it would take them 6 months to a year to actually come to me. That's the confidence a marketing team gets when they get insights, when they know what matters. And how personal is your personal? I've always believed sending mass mails. By the way, I've banned my inside sales team to send any email which is more than 5 people as a campaign. I don't allow them to send any email cold turkey. The only emails they should be sending is when they already know the profile of the person. They profile them, they know what to say, they're very sure about what they're saying, and they're backing it up, whatever they're saying, with enough reason to believe. Once they've done that, I've seen my response rates and my the success of my outbound go up by 25% in a year. We had a fantastic year this year. Just by one of the things that we did was this. My inside sales, my outbound profiles people and then sends that email. Sid.
I have nothing to add. You've covered basically everything.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's perfect. That's exactly
there are certain topics which are too close to my heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So hacks. So before we go to hacks, let's go to something which, if the question has not come, it would come. So we talked about selecting, your A team, hiring your A team. One thing which more often than not comes into any such webinar or a dialogue is, what about growth marketing? So let's talk about that, even though you didn't ask. Growth, the way I see growth is understanding what you do best, what works for you, what you can do well, and then eliminating all the riffraff, eliminating everything else, and doing just the 3 things you're good at, and just do them more consistently till the time you become even more successful, and then expand. That's what growth marketing is for me. Now, the question is, at what stage do you set up growth marketing? I would say any stage. You don't need a very to hire growth marketers. So just like SaaS marketers, growth marketers are some is a very fuzzy word. Essentially, the way I see growth marketing, and Sid, I hope you agree, is people coming together to solve a common problem. So a growth marketing team could comprise of a product manager, of a marketer, a campaign guy, even somebody from an operations point of view who knows how to solve certain problems, right? These growth marketing teams, for example, Uber, they brought in 100 people to comprise of the growth marketing team to improve customer experience. Depends what your goals are. In Facebook, they have a growth agenda for, you used to have a growth agenda for every department. Like in HR, there would be different growth goals. In marketing and sales, there would be different growth goals. In product, there would be different growth goals. And these teams initially would report, work independently, comprise of the CEO and founder or the founding team. And this growth team reports to the founder, or they could report to product, or they could report to marketing at different stages of your growth. So building a growth team, why is it important? What it is? So it's important because, in the initial, if you want growth, you need to be obsessed about your customers. So that means customer centricity needs to be your focus from day one. Your customers would get a better experience. It would give them a better sense of direction and outcomes. If you're running out of cash or you've got to prove your model, that's the only thing you can do. Work on a growth project, find out who your what is the provable and scalable model for your business, give clarity to your team and your investors. So that's what growth team does for you. The outcome of a growth team is for you. It would depend again on your stage, whether you've achieved product maturity, you're at MVP stage, your ideal customers or profitable segments you've identified, you have a product market fit, and what do you do? So how is it different? While traditional marketing is all about acquisition and attention, so IDA model, attention and awareness and interest, growth marketing actually is full funnel marketing. It's a closed loop where you focus on not just acquiring the customers, converting them, retaining them, and getting a positive referral from them as a whole. This team may or may not focus on all the customers you have or all the prospects that you chase, but this team does operate on a closed loop model. How do you begin? So you set your growth goals. That's usually done by your founding team. You understand your customers through emotions and data. I stress on the word emotion because most of our purchases, if they're non-emotional, if they're just logical, then it's difficult to change. It's difficult to beat logic with anything else. If you know what's the emotional angle to it, you have stand better success. What do people feel when they use our product? What do they feel when they see my interface? What do they feel? What do they feel delighted when they get an email from me, etc., etc. And you need to do a lot of data crunching to understand how to run your arrive at your hypothesis, which you then prioritize and strategize. So if my hypothesis is that we did something like this while at Vinculum, where initially we were talking multi-channel order management or multi-channel e-commerce. That was the in thing. Then suddenly came omni-channel, and we wanted to find out whether that would stick with our customers. So what we did was we divided our customers into e-tailers, retailers, marketplaces, logistics companies, and sellers. Once we had identified them, we started studying the data and the behavior of the buying patterns. Then we arrived at a few hypotheses that, see, a marketplace would need our software because of A, B, C, right? And then we went and started doing projects. We started creating lists. We started hitting them with these hypotheses, these customer segments. We executed them and tested the results out of it and analyzed and adapted our process. Now, how is this related to the channels that we spoke of? I'll just speak about that later. So we improve our processes and then we set more profitable goals. So your goals which you set in stage 1 would change after the first iteration, and you would arrive at better goals to chase, more profitable goals to chase, right? So what could be your goals? There could be new user acquisition, free trials, freemium conversions, MAU, monthly active users, daily active users, active versus paying customers. What is the churn? Segment revenue versus net revenue. You need to set goals. Once you have aligned these growths, now comes to selecting the growth channels. Remember, Sid and I talked about channels that you can utilize. How do you select the best fit channels? Here's how you do it. First, you need to understand what your end goal is. It will change over time. It will help you determine the product market fit. It will help you demonstrate scale. It will be a repeatable, scalable business model and will give you profitability. So now, what investments can you make? So what you do is you list down the channels, your current or expected customer acquisition cost. CAC is customer acquisition cost. What are the expected outcomes? What are the expected timelines to hit those goals? The goals which we defined in the previous slide, and who owns these channels and results. So for example, even your app can be used for within app marketing. If that owner is a product, what are the results in app marketing that you can do? So next stage is where you add one more dimension, which is time and customer outcomes, right? How much time do you have to run these to determine which my growth channels are? How much time will you study these channels for? How many customers will you reach? And what is your ability to execute these channels for a long run? LinkedIn, for example, LinkedIn advertising is not everybody's cup of tea. I violently disagree with people who say that paid advertising is not for startups and they should not invest on the money on paid advertising. I just hate that presumption. The reason is because your customer acquisition costs if you're able to identify the channel that you get that gets you the customer at the lowest cost and at the same ROI, why would you say no to that? Why would you say no to an ROI? Yes, the assumption that you don't know which channels are your growth channels is understandable, but to say that it doesn't work just doesn't work with me. And now you identify your best performing channels. Once you've gone through the data, you've identified that your best 3 channels, you use your tactics or your messaging or your campaigns through them, do a lot of A/B testing, and then find the ROI and scale that you're looking for. So all the channels that we mentioned, try doing this growth mindset framework. You could arrive at the channels which you should spend on. I know I kind of ran through it, but I hope we were able to give you some perspective. Now, before we go into hacks, okay, no questions on. Okay, we have often planned for achieving non-linear growth. Sid, you want to talk about it?
I want to just give a quick example over here. There were 2 questions. One was someone asking, product-led growth, can you go from 0 to 1 with the PLG? Mm-hmm. And then Vartha asked if how to achieve, how to bring in that non-linear growth. So I think they're kind of connected. The reason I feel that product-led growth doesn't help you achieve 0 to 1, because you have to run a lot of experiments to actually get from 0 to 1. There's a lot of like grunt work, manual stuff that you think. And over time you start figuring out certain things, and then comes like, after you figure out a few things, then comes like say non-linear growth. So for example, let's say I'm in the developer tools space. Okay, it's a SaaS tool. Now over 2 years, 3 years, I figure out that if I go to tech events and I give my tool for free out, if I get a speaker slot over there and I give my tool out for free to developers, okay, many of them end up trying it out, right? They're just trying it out right now. So I've got one part is working. I've got people to try it out. Then I realized that if I have a really good mechanism for them to share it with their coworkers and get more credits, that they can use more of it because they're using it quite often, let's say, okay. In that case, I'm able to get that spread within the organization. I can get them to send it to more. That's 2 things working. Now figured out, okay, how do I get them to try it out? How do I get them to share it? Let's say I figured these things out. So, and then finally, I realized that at a certain critical stage, they go to a decision maker who just says, all right, fine, buy it, right? So there's 2 or 3 things that have to work together. That is when, and once I understand that, and it takes time, it will never be like I figure this out right in the beginning, or I'm able to do this, even if I'm an experienced founder, even experienced founders who really understand product-led growth, even they will know that they have to run the experiments, but it's not necessarily that it will happen the first time. So they'll figure these things out, and then non-linear growth will come in when I know, okay, go to 100 events in a year. So I have a team of developer evangelists, let's say, I hire them first. I go to 100 tech developer events in a year, okay? And I offer a great free version at every event. And then my product is amazing at getting people to share and adopt more of it, okay? That is when, say, now I've got 3 or 4 things that are really working together. And I know how to do them repeatedly over and over again. So Vartha, to answer your question, that is when non-linear growth really comes in. And like Amit explained, like in his entire frame, there's a lot of A/B testing, there's a lot of CRO, there's a lot of experiments that you could run over and over again, which is why people think growth, like people call this term growth hacks, but it is not a hack. It is not even close to a hack. It's a process done over and over again until you really start seeing the results. Yeah.
So on that topic, what Sid said, and also you got to understand that the product-led growth is an iterative process. As Sid also mentioned, it can not be linear, non-linear, exponential till the time you've understood that your product has a functional outcome, your product has an emotional outcome, and your product has a social outcome. You'll arrive at that stage much later. But initially, you got to understand what product-led growth is first. Then you got to bring in, you got to organically build within your product the essence of and I'm just giving you examples. How can how can a product lead your growth without having to spend too much on a sales driven model or a high touch model? That will only happen when your product has that, reduces the friction of usage. So if you have a self-serve model, People would love your product. If you could just allow me to, input a few contacts and boom, it's all set up there. That's product-led growth for you. You got to cut down you're cutting down on your cost. You're cutting down on your customer onboarding time. Linear or non-linear will only depend on how well you understand your customers' functional and emotional needs. What delights them, what makes their job easy, and what would make them refer more. That's what the whole game is all about. So there's no simple answer to it. The product growth will be linear if your understanding of your customers and what your product can do now and in the future is not good. If your understanding is superlative, if you can predict how your customers are going to use it in the future, you will see an exponential growth in that. We can give you many such examples. So which one would I say? Okay. So for example, SimilarWeb. It's so easy for you to use. I would just go and type, okay, this is my company. It would say, tell me your competitors, and you would give me your competitors, and it would boom, give me all the data that I would need. Now, it would prompt me on my screen. We want to create a project for it. Yes, you create a project. You want to keep make sure that the analysis sent to you every week. Boom, it's there. What does it do? At every micro moment, it's delighting me. And does it now give me more reasons to actually ask my team to check it out and my CEO to check it out? Does it give me use cases which say, hey, you could send this to your management and say, we are performing better than your competition. That's growth for you coming right from your product. Linear, non-linear, totally depends on your understanding of the customer needs. Right, Sid?
Yep, agreed.
Okay, now for some hacks, because whenever you do a session, you're supposed to give some hacks. So some hacks from us. And we'll quickly, in essence of time, we'll quickly go through this. I'm a big, huge fan of something called network effects. I'm pretty sure most of you would have already heard of it. Network effects is essentially what we need to understand, that no, you can't exist in a complete silo, in a complete vacuum. There would always be some degrees of separation between different nodes, which is essentially people who you can create a network of. I'll give you a lot of examples as we go along, but if you are able to create a network and leverage that network that already exists, you might not even need to spend big in your marketing. So for example, very early in a very early stage, our products were based on the AWS platform, and AWS themselves gives startups and technology providers a good enough platform to actually market themselves. In fact, they market it for you. If you are running SaaS programs, then your products would be already based on Azure or a Google Cloud or an AWS. And if you dig deep, you would see tremendous marketing opportunities right there for you. Another avenue is industry associations like NASSCOM, like IMAI, and what have you. If you're able to identify the real influencers within those networks and cross-leverage the reach of these networks for yourself, sky's the limit. I've done that I would like to believe, I've done that quite well at Vinculum. AWS was one of the reasons why I tasted a lot of success really early in our funding stages. They were very cooperative. They helped us a lot in terms of technical evaluations, making sure that we save costs for not just ourselves, but our clients. And the way we positioned ourselves, that was that the best multi-channel order management platform based on the best cloud technology. So our pitches to the CIOs and the CFOs was different. And to a CEO, it was all about value. And you can get a lot of these avenues working with them, including a market development fund. I'll not talk much about it. Early referrals. Now, this is something I've tasted, reasonable amount of success with, because we were obsessed about our customers. So any customer, and this I spoke about earlier as well. Early referrals do matter, not just as business referrals. So I would go and ask a lot of my early customers to give me a lot of testimonials, would produce a lot of case studies with them. But the most important question that I asked them was, would you refer us to someone? And more often than not, you'll realize you haven't asked that question. And when you do ask that question, they would they would mostly say yes if they're happy with your product. If you can use those early referrals, they're zero cost leads right into your funnel, and they fall directly into your MOFU, MOFU, middle of the funnel, because you don't need to identify them as MQLs. You don't need to identify them as, you don't have to do the song and dance routine for them. So if when a CIO of a company refers me another CIO or another company, even a smallish company, I have already reduced the friction for my team. They just go in, introduce themselves, and start talking. Unusable cohorts. Now, see, if you're operating in a category where you compete with the big boys, you definitely can't do the whole song and dance routine like they do, right? So I would rather create WhatsApp groups of my cohorts, and interact with them, because no big commerce or no Workday or no IBM would do that. That only a startup can do. And if used effectively, there is tremendous value in creating smaller groups with customers, very intimate groups where your founders directly interact with them, listen to them, improve their products based on their feedback, and really understand what they really want. Co-marketing. Now, um, in our early days at Vinculum, we were funded by Ivy and Axel, and we leveraged this network of companies that they have funded to organize a lot of events, participate in their events, sponsor those events, and created a huge network out of it. And that strategy really worked for us. These co-marketing, so if you have a complementary product that has a market and you can take to your clients and vice versa, that is something that really works. It's a zero cost marketing. It's customers see value in that. So for example, what example can I give? So we at my previous company were doing martech consulting, and we would frequently take martech platforms alongside with us into a meeting. What it did was, a, completed the use case circle for us. So my consulting with their platform, and us showing them how it can add value. So I'm being more um, valuable to my customer because I introduce them to a new player who can actually solve one more use case for them. A very good channel you should explore. Customer advisory boards and product advisory groups is something which, again, we did very early in my products at HCL. We created that for specifically to tell our customers that we listen to them. Basically, I made my products to according to the specs of my early customers. Corporate advisory boards or customer advisory boards are your mentors who will not only contribute to the strategy but also the growth of your business. There is tremendous value in it. I know you would think that once you reach a particular enterprise grade of revenues, when you should do it. Sorry, not true. Many startups have actually succeeded just by doing this. Sid, you want to add?
Yeah, so for us, basically co-marketing worked really well. And right now we're trying to do partnerships with, because we're in the accounting space, so we're trying to do with NetSuite and others, which is kind of standard if you're in the accounting space, yeah. But in the past, co-marketing, I'll tell you how we did it. What we'd say is, let's say there's two products that both serve the same target audience, let's say marketers. One is, let's say, an SEO tool, the other is an email marketing tool. In that case, what we would do is we'd say, all right, fine, guys, let's do a webinar together where we have a common topic that we both are experts in. Okay. And I'll send this webinar link to my email list, all the people who signed up for my blog or for my ebooks or even for my tool, let's say if I have a free trial, and same for the other partner. And we will share the leads. That is, people from me who sign up, from my list who sign up, will obviously go to them, and vice versa. That way, especially if you're able to do this as a process over, say, months and years, what really happens is you get known. Everyone knows about your webinar, other tools know. And once you're able to build up a list, you're able to build your marketing engine around promoting a webinar, etc., or an ebook or whatever it is, any kind of co-marketing. In that case, we would be able to generate a lot of top of funnel leads that were not yet ready, but we could nurture them over time into basically becoming marketing qualified leads and being interested in the product. The other thing that worked really well for us was around events, where we had agency partners marketing agencies. So we would go to events in the US and we'd say, hey guys, let's do a booth together. We did this in Australia and in the US. We said, hey guys, let's do a booth together. And we would even call them on webinars, etc., because they were subject matter experts. Like they really know about different aspects of, let's say technical parts of email marketing, etc. And over there, what worked very well was they were able to bring in strategic expertise on how to run a process, while we were able to bring in the technology or the SaaS product. And they would obviously, if someone was signing up, we'd refer them and they could provide the services. While if they were finding someone who wanted the service, they'd refer us, okay, fine, this is the product that we use to run whatever it is that we're running. So those two parts of co-marketing worked damn well for us. Yeah.
Awesome. So one of the questions that I get a lot, or in any of the consulting assignments that I do, is how do you get early PR? What do we get? How do we do PR which doesn't cost a bomb? So I'll tell you what. I had a chat with our group CEO Pankaj Bansal in his early years when he started the space, and I also remember at Vinculum when my company was they had just an initial round of funding and we wanted to really scale. What could you do? So what Pankaj did was he claimed the space by being a top recall, where they were competing with the top ERPs, and there was no Indian player. So what he did was he started positioning himself as an Indian ERP or an Indian HR tech platform, homegrown, built ground up, and that worked for him. Then another thing that he did was, and he did it beautifully, was he started positioning himself as as a moderator or someone who holds the debate between the two parts of CIOs and the CHROs, and it generated beautiful results in that sense. Another thing is, and this is what I've also seen, is we always think that the Gartner play, briefing a Gartner analyst, is a big boy game. It's not. I mean, you don't need to have a Gartner subscription to actually brief a Gartner analyst. They are always on the lookout for new technology, emerging players, more use cases that can be solved, right? We did that at Vinculum. That's what Pankaj did in his early days at PeopleStrong. And that's what each one of you can try. Maybe you're already trying. So another thing which was very successful both for us at Vinculum and again Pankaj initially was he created a property called a new code of work, where we used to tell success stories of organizations who were trying to provide joy, energy, and meaning at work. At Vinculum, we created various different event formats where we used to partner with similar like-minded companies, and we created properties which were celebrated. So one of the things was creating something called an e-commerce enablers ecosystem, where we brought in a lot of brands like us. Initial few partners were media agencies like Socrati. We brought in other platform players or marketplace selling platforms. We brought all of them in, and then we jointly created a platform which had a great network effect. It was a very successful program that we did. New Code of Work is still known as one of the flagship events in the HR tech space. It's a huge property. In fact, this year at the peak of COVID in May, we did an event with 550 CHROs and CEOs attend. We had 13 winners and 26 beautiful case studies coming in. At the peak of COVID, we were able to do it. That's the legacy of the early vision that a founder can create. If you can create that legacy ain't going anywhere. It's going to create PR on its own. I did not spend any money on the PR. The PR came on its own. And it's not because we're an enterprise player now, because the seeds were sown right at the beginning of inception of PeopleStrong. These seeds were sown for the e-commerce enablers plan when I was there 7-8 years back. Still a property, extremely popular, global now. You need to understand what is it that value you can create despite being small. How you can invest early in the right things. Another area which very frequently succeeds is there are a lot of niche media platforms, content creators right now today, which you can easily leverage on. So if your startup is in the space of AI, you can easily provide them feed information. Feed these journalists are hungry for information. Feed them with information. Tell them what AI can do. Give them use cases. Show them reports, and they would be happy to publish. We publish a report called Payroll Insights, where we spend zero amounts of money. We generate data based on our platform. We create that into an report, we send it to the journalist, and it gets published without spending a single dollar. And we are an enterprise player. So if we are able to do something free, you definitely can. You can do a lot of innovation showcase. You can do Snapdeal in its early days actually adopted a village. It's called Snapdeal Village, right? You can do a lot of CSR activities. You could hire people from a particular to support, and genuinely so. Don't do it because of a motive of I want PR. No, genuinely do something, make a story, believe in it, and people will respond. You will see. You've already seen with something so innate like Baba Ka Daba, that incident, right, where a blogger went ahead and shot a video of a old guy, and he got crores of crowdfunded money to support him. Causes give cause for people to believe in you, and it will all depend on your vision or how you do it. PR is not that expensive when you know what story to tell. Find the niche. So, for example, we found a niche in HR tech very early. We found a niche at Vinculum on omni-channel retailing in India very early. You look, and if you still go and do a Google search, that page would still belong to Vinculum as the number one SERP result. That's the power of vision that you can do at the early stages of your startup. Okay, so let's just moving quickly. Sid, personal brand, a lot to talk about. Why don't you start?
Okay, so try to make it work, etc. Only just one thing, like you covered most of them. Just think, like I said, mentioned when we were discussing this, only one thing. If you're looking for like early PR or you're looking for a personal brand, often many of you, I think over here are founders, right? But you want to realize is that a personal brand and early PR, will never come from your team. It almost always has to be by yourself putting it out. That is, you're out there, you're in front of the media, you're in front of people, you're out there giving interviews, you're out there doing podcasts, you're out there writing blog or opinion pieces, etc. Okay. Because I've tried this in the past where the founder will say, or the CEO will say, hey, listen, build me a personal brand. I want to be this thing. But if they themselves, their heart and soul is not into it, like I'll say, okay, fine, there's a great opinion over here. Can you provide something from your experience or something that contradicts or gives a different perspective? And they won't get back to me for 3 days until the deadline is gone, right? But the people who are out there who really themselves are like, very well this thing, they'll give great opinions. They'll put out perspective that is super smart. Like they'll make you think, okay. And those are the ones who get all the PR and the personal branding. And the ones that aren't willing to do that and are hoping that the marketing team will run it for them, it falls through here. It just doesn't work out. So just that much, Amit.
Anything the founders are not clear, marketers will do it, right?
That's the hope, yeah.
that goes for almost 90% of things in any organization. So I'll just, at the risk of repeating it, think of it this way. When investors see your pitch decks, the first thing they do is they search for you. And if you're not on LinkedIn with a detailed profile with a lot of chatter going about you and your product and your early customers, think what will the investor think about, right? That's the best SEO you can do for yourself. And they would check LinkedIn. They would check what are your conversations about. They would check how are people responding to what you say. So if I'm an AI and ML startup, and I talk about how AI and ML can help you create a skill cloud and find the right people for your organization, people should jump at that. And if people jump at that and they start participating, the investors would know you before you tell them, before you send them your pitch deck. tagging your early customers, getting them to rave about you. If you can do that, there is no better ad that you can run. Imagine on your LinkedIn stream, if I were to talk about myself, I wake up every morning, and while having my coffee, I spend half an hour going through LinkedIn. And what catches my attention amongst all the, our brain is wired so that whenever we see something which is different, it takes less effort for our brain to actually recognize that it's important, right? And that's what this game is all about. If you are able to get people to talk about you, your PR, your initial pitches to investors, it all become easy. There is a very high probability that you will become a brand much faster than your company or your product, and that happens when the founders know the power of creating a personal brand. And I urge every single founder, if you are not putting out content posts, short posts, insights, thought leadership on LinkedIn, then you're not doing any justice to your marketing team. Don't ask them, why are we not increasing followers, why do we not have leads coming in. Don't ask them all these questions, because the one person who's at fault is not the marketer, it's you. And if you don't know how to do that, let the marketers teach you. I've done that. And there came a point where the founders were so good at it that my job was very easy. I can give you so many examples. um, uh, in fact, I know of a lot of marketers, or rather a lot of founders who are actually so good at it that even despite having just bogus products, they get a lot of traction on their posts. They got a lot of traction on social media. People want to talk to them, etc., etc. If you're doing podcasts, if you're creating any kind of video, if you're creating any kind of content, find one channel where it all needs to it all needs to come down, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter. Select one, be at it, be regular at it, because creating a personal brand is the number one thing that should be on your agenda. Um, and with that, we come to the last slide. Now, this is something, it's one of my favorite topics, because even when I discuss customer experience with the founders, or even established founders, they just feel customer experience is about a UI. They don't understand that it has a direct impact on your bottom of the funnel, people converting. There is something called churn, which every SaaS founder it's the biggest headache every SaaS founder should have, because churn chases revenue. Your lifetime value, your profitability is all dependent on churn. What impacts churn? It's either a bad product or a bad experience. So your experience of your customers is actually through the entire journey of theirs with your brand. So we are in an experience economy, and think of it this way: Starbucks doesn't sell coffee. Starbucks sells a cup of experience. Your in the initial few days, at least, the Indigo flight ticket was all about moments of truth, right? Having an Apple phone isn't just swag value; it is that experience that an Apple product gives you. Having an amazing UI helps somebody like an Asana succeed, right? And customer experience is not just about having a amazing UIs. Imagine, so I'll just give you a very quick example, two examples of companies which do this really well. They're not B2B. I'm purposely taking B2C example, because in B2C it's very difficult because of the wild volumes. One is Spinny and the other one is Urban Club, right? Everybody would have a different experience of them, but I just sold my car, right? I could have sold it to Cars24 and OLX and all those people. And OL and Spinny is a they just got funded though, but they have mostly inexperienced people. But the reason why I chose, the quotes were almost the same from Cars24 and Spinny. I chose to sell it to Spinny because the way they treated me. It was fantastic. The moment you go to the website, the moment you get an OTP, the way they create the entire closed loop, where if I have not responded to a WhatsApp message, I'll get a call. The person, a young chap, 21 years, doesn't even know, he was nervous talking to me. But the way I could see the dedication in his voice and the way they handled my paperwork and everything, it was fantastic. Urban Clap, every time a guy comes in, their SOPs are so beautiful that they follow their SAP. They're very polite. They give you a great experience. They're obsessed about ratings, and that's a very single person. Every single craftsman that comes to my home from Urban Clap is obsessed about his rating. Whether that's built into the business model, I don't care. I get a good service every time. There are products, there are apps, there are martech platforms who I'll give you an example. Clearbit and Zero Bounce, there when I get emails from them, from onboarding to usage of the product to reminding me that, hey, your team hasn't logged in, the experience is fantastic. When you call these people, it's a great experience. And what you don't realize is that because you're a startup, it's even more important for you to be obsessed about this experience, because the initial few customers are going to get you that viral effect. They are the ones who is going to get you more people. And it's very important that you focus on customer experience right at the beginning of your startup, right at this time when you're trying to scale up, because customer obsession has to be built in to the culture of your organization. And if you don't understand that customer experience is a differentiator for your product and it encompasses the whole customer journey, you'll never be good at it. Your bottom of the funnel accounts will convert faster. Differentiator experience. Your churn can reduce if the necessary interventions from the founding team and the product team are done at the right time. Its basis is customer experience. That's it. I mean, all I will request all the early stage founders is be obsessed about your customers and their experience, because that's what will drive your economy. Sid.
We're running out of time, so
already run out of time.
Yeah, we're well out of time. So I think I'll just not add anything over there. You've kind of covered everything. So yeah, I think you can, if you want, you should probably go back, just quick look at the messages and see if we can take 5-10 minutes to quickly answer some.
Sure. So I'll start from the top.
Just quickly take a stab at some of these questions.
Man, there were a lot. We missed a lot. There's just suggestions. What is the difference between revenue and user acquisition? So do you want to take a stab at that? Though we did explain that.
We discussed that. We discussed that in detail.
Okay. Steps or roadmap for user number stages. I see them in direct proportion to my my goals. So if my goal is to reach 1 million ARR and 5 million ARR, I would backward calculate and see how many paid non-churn customers would I need. And that's how my calculation would be. So if my churn is 20%, I would look at that number from 120%, 130% point of view. That's the number and the stage, the way I would look at it. Right way to prioritize the order. Does brand creation start from? I think we already answered that. Brand creation can, yes, start from day one. At least the personal brand of the founder should start from day one. And then you let grow organically. Your brand creation will take time. People will take time for you to notice. And I think you should give it a reasonable amount of time selecting the right growth channels. Sid, do you want to say anything to that?
No, I think I've answered some of the questions on chat, which is why I thought you could.
Why don't you pick them up? I don't know which all. I mean, you would know better, right?
Okay, one second. Physical advertising, I asked you. You gave it this thing over there. Not as remunerative. Also, you answered. Technical domain for marketing emails. I think we both agree that we should have a different domain for outbound emails versus this thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should warm up those domains before you start mass.
Do you have any thoughts on this one? Vishal Rupani asked, where does one find the almost mythical backend developers for pre-revenue bootstrap startups?
Man, I don't have an answer for that.
I don't have an answer. Which Vishal, if you're there, I didn't answer that because no idea about that, man. Really, it's very difficult. Yeah.
I would even go with someone on freelance if I'm that desperate. Really, I would get that person work with me on a project basis and probably try to steal him once I scale. That's what I would do.
Okay. And Rachit, after I have a SaaS idea, how do I go about doing customer research for it? And he's at the very starting stage. Any thoughts over there?
He has a SaaS idea and wants to do customer research.
Yep.
I'm assuming stealth mode.
Stealth mode, yeah.
Yeah. So for that, you need to actually see the way I would do it. So if let's say I had a idea for a MarTech SaaS app, and I don't want to disclose what that app is, but if let's say that app is focused on A/B testing, I would look at the people who respond to. I would find a way to people who respond to and take active participation. CMOs who and marketers who take active participation in these kind of conversations, in events, do their webinars, speak about them. I would create a list of say 100 of them, try to reach 50 of them, and try to take a mind share of 25 of them. At a stealth mode stage, the one thing that you should do, even without disclosing much, is get absolutely quickly an ownership over that category. If it's a differentiated product, differentiated category, you don't want to disclose much, but put out as much content as you can right now, even before you launch that product. Right now, start creating content, start creating conversations around that category, not your product. And once you've done that, you will see people joining in, and it will make it very, very easy for you to get your customer, your market research. That's what I would do. I mean, Sid, do you have any idea about that?
I tried this. I tried a product of my own. It didn't work out. And it was actually very difficult to get. In the end, what it came down to was network. I did a lot of cold calling. I did a lot of cold outreach. The actual leads I got were from my network. And the second was I'd gone to Facebook groups because it was also a MarTech product. So I'd gone to Facebook groups around AdWords and Google Analytics. And I'd found people who were asking for questions that were relevant to what I was trying to solve.
But wouldn't that reduce your sample size?
Yeah, completely.
Right?
Reduced, like nothing.
So would it be a bad idea to actually commission a project? I remember I launched India's first educational tablet, which was called My EduTab while at HCL. And yes, I did have some money, of course. So I did commission a research project with MDI and GFK mode to get all that information for me. I did not want to disclose what I'm launching, so it was very hush hush. But I did get some beautiful, beautiful insights. I later on, when I launched another project of mine at HCL, I actually got a lot of management students come in working for me, and just gave them the concept and asked them to get me the information. Crude way of doing it kind of worked, but commissioning a project could be something.
Yeah, I was trying to bootstrap it, didn't have the budget, etc. So I thought I'll bootstrap it. So yeah.
One very important thing though, if the fallacy is we are assuming it's a stealth mode. In there are many platforms which actually allow startups to an early access into a lot of customers where they crowd fund for these projects. So
yeah,
remember we were talking about the other day. So my brother has ordered a charging mat for me in the States, where it's at a very conceptual stage. They explain the concept to you. If you feel that there is something that can really add value, I can do two things. I can fund that project with a small investment, and I will get my first unit free. And they interview me and my brother regularly to actually find out, ask me the questions and how often do you charge? What is your what is your number one problem while charging, while traveling? What are your preferences? Blah blah blah. So that could be something you can explore.
Yeah. Now, I think this question: do you recommend setting up a new marketing domain for sending mails? I thought I'd answered that, but Vishal says I'll keep looking. I thought the point was would be answered that we should get a different email domain for SaaS for outbound, right?
So here's what my team does. Because some of my emails go to some really high profile senior leadership, my team has actually created another email ID for me, which is Amit at, right? And that email ID has been warmed up for a while now. And all mass mails that I send, which are non-personalized to senior people or mid-level people, go from that ID. But I insist on writing my own emails. I insist on writing my own emails to the senior people directly. So that's not where And I have a very clearly bifurcated. So every senior management. So for example, some emails will go from CEO at PeopleStrong, some will go from my CEO's direct email ID. But I definitely recommend warming up a domain for your marketing emails.
Got it. So let's do the last question because I think we're well over time and now people are slowly dropping off. I'm a little scared. So last question for you. Companies like Whatfix have leveraged community to a great extent. Where do we start? And when do we start thinking about community building?
When do we? That's a very good question. It's kind of subjective, depends on what product you are. So for example, HubSpot started early. We at PeopleStrong started community quite late. But the way we are doing it is we're even giving certifications on instructor-led trainings. I would say the moment you feel that you've achieved some virality, some awareness, and some appreciation for your product, um, don't focus on creating a community building a community for business reasons only. What HubSpot did really well was they own the entry level marketing knowledge. If think non-commercial first, and if my straight answer to you would be, one, when you've achieved something where your product has a kind of a virality in it. Two, when you have owned that space, that niche, that category, we have enough content, enough awareness about that in the market. And number three, when you're ready, when you have people. Building a community isn't just building a website. Building a community means regular dialogues, regular questions, regular contests, a lot of things to be able to do that. I would say wait for it till the time your marketing team is at least 5-7 people old. But that's my opinion. You could also build a community which is built by the community, managed by the community. So for example, Sid and I, if Sid, you open a marketing, or if you open a SaaS martech platform, you could invite me and other people to run the platform for them, for you, co-branding it as a marketing community, not just a XYZ startup community.
Yeah.
And depends how good your network is, how good your bandwidth is, and what stage you're at.
Got it. Okay, I think we'll let it be from there. Any last question, guys? Let's just take 3 more minutes because it's 2:47 and we've taken a lot of time.
A lot of time. Yeah. Thank you for being here, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around for so long. It's on a Sunday.
But thank you, Sid and Amit, you guys as well. You guys, extended the time there. First of all, you gave the time on a Sunday, plus then you extended the time so much. And just like to mention for, whoever is remaining in the session right now, first time that I spoke to him, it was just a month back, regarding this session. The kind of passion and, the energy which he spoke about giving back to the community and helping early stage founders, it was completely amazing. I mean, in this session, literally, we just had to, as Headstart, we just had to do housekeeping. Literally, Amit drove the entire thing. So thank you for that. He even introduced us to Siddharth there. So thanks a lot for that, Amit. And thanks a lot, Siddharth, for spending that time with us. I really,
it has made me who I am today, as it's just me giving back. So just to reiterate, on Monday, I'm with tagging Headstart and said I'm gonna start a thread. If you have any questions, please invite more people. We'd love to answer questions. We'd love to actually learn by answering your questions. Different scenarios give us a lot of insight and pique our creativity. So I'm going to do that. Please join in there. That's the best way for everybody to know that we're talking.
Just 2 more things there. I actually just invited Amit Singh as well, who is the co-founder and managing director of Headstart, to just give you a thank you note there. So Amit, over to you.
Hey, thank you so much, Rishabh. And Amit said, I've been a part of this conversation for a greater part of the last 1 hour. And it's been such a delight listening to you. And Amit, the passion with which you want to contribute, totally shows. And Headstart is a paid forward initiative. Most of us over here are volunteers doing our bit to contribute to the next gen. And thanks so much for being a part of the tribe. We are really grateful. Your time on a Sunday where you could have chosen to do a bunch of things, being with family, chilling, reading your favorite book, wrapping up those chores. There's so many things you could do, but you chose to spend it over here with us today. and I'm really very grateful and glad to be amongst you guys today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone, all the participants. Thank you, Sid. It was nice jamming with you once again. I hope to,
For sure.
do that
For sure.
over and over.
Again, thanks for having me, everyone, at Headstart Network, and for the people who are still here, and Amit for actually running this entire thing and setting it up. So yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Bye.
Enjoy. Happy New Year to all. Enjoy your holidays and have a great time with your family.